Yeah, I want to call attention to this recent story about Mark Taylor. He was one of the victims at the Columbine shooting in 1999, and he became a whistleblower on things he observed and things he found out. Now he's drugged and jailed. Now, I want to point something else out right here from the get-go. The national health care system, I'm not a fan of Lindsey Williams, but one thing he did say that I totally agree with, the national health care system is about total control. And one of the ways they can really control you is through the psychiatric profession, because that's like a pseudoscience. It's like, you can have like 10 different psychiatrists come up with 10 different conclusions. It's not really based upon extreme hard empirical evidence like, yeah, you got a blood clot, or yeah, your sugar level's too high, or yeah, your cholesterol's too high. It's kind of based upon judgment. And so a lot of the ways they could take a molehill and make it a mountain out of it, and have you institutionalized because somebody up there important doesn't like you, doesn't like what you're saying, doesn't like what you're exposing. And that's what happened with Mark Taylor. Now, I'm going to give you another example. I forgot his name, but it was somebody else who was in the government that blew the whistle on Bush, on George Bush, about the invasion of Kuwait. And, basically there was no justification for it. And pointed out a number of things and exposed stuff. Guess what happened to him? He was institutionalized. So that's a way around the whole Constitution, because, the medical profession through the psychiatric profession, basically, they could pretty much do anything. They got carte blanche. Some psychiatrists could say this, 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 and that. Go up to a court, and you're screwed. You're screwed, right? No, forget about the Constitution. So that's basically what happened with Mark Taylor. And I'm putting this out here because this is going to be one of your biggest problems with national health care. And I'm going to say this to the American people. Do not disarm and do not trust psychiatrists or psychologists. That profession, actually, I did some research on it, going all the way back to, even the medieval times. They did some horrific things to people, even in the last 50 years. Horrible things. But now it's more or less covered up because it's done with drugs. A person just like a zombie. So they drug him up. And that's what's going on with Mark Taylor. So it goes on in this article. I'll post a link below. There's actually a couple links. It's basically the same articles. Mark Taylor is a Columbine, he was a survivor of the Columbine school shooting. He later became a whistleblower, right? After he discovered that the people that did the shooting, they were raped, sodomized, and given mind-altering drugs, which likely, I'd say, would have contributed to the insanity in carrying out the massacre. So Mark Taylor also brought suit against the big pharmaceutical companies and won. Because if you actually look at all these mass shootings, practically every single one of them was involved with psychiatrists and drugs and all this other garbage. You talk about the illegal drug dealers, the big ones are really the legal ones. The ones that are sanctioned by the corporations and, the whole system itself. They're the worst ones going. I mean, somebody smokes a little pot, they get slammed. I don't smoke pot or anything, but you know what I mean. It doesn't make anybody go shoot somebody, that's for sure. But the stuff that the psychiatrists give out, that encourages suicidal and violent behavior. Many of these antidepressants have been shown to do this. So it goes on to say, additionally, Mark blew the whistle early about the Columbine investigation that actual SWAT team members stationed on the roof of the high school fired into the school, and it looks like they were responsible for some of the injuries and deaths that occurred that day. So, SWAT team, trigger-happy guys, just shooting up the place, they did it too. It wasn't all the crazy shooters. So, this is one of the reasons they want to take away guns. God, you got to be kidding me. Since day one, Mark has been intimidated and harassed by big pharma corporations and police, unlawfully having his freedom taken away in 2008 when the police cited a report that Mark intended to bomb a border bookstore or some crap. In other words, I don't know what the hell he made up, But Mark Taylor was one of the most severely injured shooting victims on a Columbine school shooting on April 20th, 1999. And again, April 20th, one of those Illuminati dates, God. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it might. Who the hell knows? You know, I have a little bit of suspicion about some of these dates, but you can't read every little detail into every damn thing and, like, be fearful all the time. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, because April 20th comes every year. But that might have something to do with it, 1999, 666, and April 20th. I don't know. Maybe. But, the real reality behind this is, since he blew the whistle on the pharma and the SWAT teams shooting up the kids too by mistake or whatever the hell they were doing, he gets slammed. He gets slammed. They don't like that. And, that's what I say about the psychiatric profession. It's like anybody could just make judgment on you and then screw you up. And if they screw you up with drugs, you're not going to be able to fight back because your brain's going to be shot. It's like cutting your head off without cutting your head off, basically. So they know it. And this is one danger of the national healthcare system, because what's going to happen is it is about total control. Now, I do think Lindsey Williams is pretty much a crackpot, but, that's one thing he said is correct. And it's not because I say, I want to agree with him, but, that is a common sense type thing. The national health care is about total control. And if you look at the Soviet Union, they did not have as many people in the gulags as they had in the psychiatric wards and the rehabilitation centers. So, that's exactly what's going to happen in the United States. And just to sum it up a little bit, just give you an overall, it's been my, knowledge from reading Major Anatoly Golitsyn, former KGB major, who was honest about what was going on in the Soviet Union. Basically, the Soviet Union is going to become more capitalistic, and the United States is become more communistic, and there's going to be a meld between the two into one new world order. If you want to look at what goes on, actually, the new world order, what it's going to be like, it's going to be more like communism under the Soviet Union, but not quite as bad. It's going to be a hybrid between that and capitalism. So we're already moving into that territory. So I think, one thing is we got to keep exposing a lot of these doctors. Not all these doctors, because there's good doctors too. I don't want to knock all of them, man. There really are some really good doctors, and there really are some good psychiatrists and psychologists. But there's a lot of evil in the system, and actually a person that gets designated as having this disorder through one of those non-specified disorders of in psychiatry. They have those damn codes. You say, not otherwise specified psychotic, and then they give you a bunch of drugs and shit and make you worse. They could do that to anybody, to any political dissident, period. Anybody that's a whistleblower. So here's an example. Here's an example, right? Mark Taylor blew the whistle on the Columbine shooting, and I forgot the other guy's name because I read it a while ago. I read too much. I forget stuff too. I forget as much as I read. But there was another person that was in the government that blew the whistle on George Bush about, the false war with Iraq and, the invasion of Kuwait. And the same thing happened to him, too. And if you look back in history, another famous whistleblower out there, James Forrestal. James Forrestal. And, he supposedly committed suicide. I'm talking back in the 1940s now, after World War II. There's a bunch of things he exposed. He actually supposedly jumped to his death, he did die, but they said it was a suicide. He fell out of the window in Bethesda Hospital in Maryland. So, this game's been going on a long time. But I have to say this, the national health care is a major danger. It's going to take away your rights. So anybody's whistleblower is going to get screwed up like this guy, Mark Taylor, It'd be nice if we go in there and, blow the walls out and free him up and shit and be kind of cool, but I don't know where the hell he is. You do like back in the Old West, get some 4x4s and, tie some chains to the windows and rip them out, and Mark, you're out of there, dude. That'd be nice, but I don't even know where the hell he is. But, we're going to have to do shit like this in the future, though. Think about it. Anyway, over now, man.